Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome to another episode of Shark Realm, as today we have some new updates involving the official Mortal Kombat 2 movie, and this is given directly by an interview from IGN.com. So I will have the link in the description and hopefully the pinned comments below. And there's been a lot of crazy things going on within the Mortal Kombat world when it comes to doing like reaction videos, having certain images and this and that. Therefore, I feel like to be more on the cautious and safe side, we'll just keep it the way it is here. And hopefully this will kind of be more like a cool, slightly podcast style video, maybe something similar to that. But either way, the link will be in the description below. So we know that the official Mortal Kombat 2 movie trailer has dropped, and it's been getting a lot of fairly more positive than negative, but also in mixed reactions in certain characters. And although for my take, there's a lot of concerns and slight nitpicks that I will definitely, talk about in the future and down the line. But for now, let's just go ahead and read the article that IGN has posted in terms of the editing, or in terms of the movie and the interview with Todd Gardner and more, talking about what to expect from the movie, including Johnny Cage. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So it says here that Scorpion will confront Noob Saibot, and I believe this article will not have any spoilers, I assume. So if there is, I'm sorry, but let's just see what happens. It says AKA Bi-Han, though, in the highly anticipated sequel as Sub-Zero, or Bi-Han, played by Joe Taslim, was slain by Scorpion Hanzo Hasashi Hiroki Sanada at the end of the 2021 movie. But Mortal Kombat fans always knew that they hadn't really seen the last of Bi-Han, especially since Taslim had previously confirmed he'd signed a multi-picture deal to play the character. So what does that mean? We will most likely have probably a Mortal Kombat 3 and 4 if the reviews for this upcoming movie does well. Hopefully if the money does well, we should see this character come back on and on, hopefully. So that's kind of a good sight to knowing that at least they have a projection of these movies coming out, or at least wanting to, because as I stated before, if the second movie does not do well, then we most likely will never see a Mortal Kombat film again in theaters for the foreseeable future. Therefore, this one has to do well in order to get a third film. So it says, considering that Karl Urban's Johnny Cage is the main protagonist of the Mortal Kombat 2 film, which rubs me the wrong way, because as much as I'm not a Johnny Cage fan, as I mentioned numerous times, him sidelining Cole Young, who sidelined Liu Kang in the first film, is not a good start, because the essence of Mortal Kombat, at least for me, is like I'm okay with going deep into the Johnny Cage storyline of him being a failed actor and stuff, but where my issue lies is that they really need to focus on the nitty-gritty of what Mortal Kombat really is. And if you read the first Mortal Kombat comic book, which was like the prelude to the actual video game, there's a very heavy storyline in there that involves Liu Kang being at the Shaolin Temple, kind of similar to the 95 film, where he doesn't necessarily believe what the Shaolin monks are doing, but at the same time, he wants to prove to them that all this is kind of like a, I don't want to say fairy tale, but Liu Kang has his denials and doubts, right? So that's what made Liu Kang kind of a believer in all this, because he was kind of a very skeptical character. And they built upon that in the comics, as well as the supposed earlier video games and even in the movie. But in this movie, the first Liu Kang didn't really do much. It was heavily revolved around Cole Young, who was kind of like that failed martial artist who needed something to strive for. And now we have Johnny Cage, who's a failed actor, which is fine, but to have the whole movie be based on his journey I think that kind of sucks because, again, there needs to be a Liu Kang redemption at some point in the film, or at least Liu Kang origins to my you know. But anyway, so it says, how much will Scorpion and Noob Saibot subplot fit into the sequel, especially since Sanada has become an even more in-demand and award-winning actor since the first film, thanks to the success of Shogun. Without giving any plots away in quotations, they have a very strong history that was unsolved in the first movie that probably needs to be resolved at some point and may be resolved in the second film. Mortal Kombat 2 producer Todd Garner recently told IGN, but their storylines are instrumental into the plot of the movie, which overall does involve a tournament. So at least we know that there is a tournament, but we haven't necessarily seen that within the actual trailer. Or we've seen fights in the trailer, but not the actual like arena and people and stuff, which is what I'm waiting for. Director Simon McCoy confirmed that Scorpion plays a pivotal role in the movie, but added during his interview with us that it's really just about giving every character a strong reason to exist in the world and giving them a way that each of them can start in one place and end in another. So we did that with Scorpion as well. He does an amazing job. Sanada, again, there's some pretty wild stuff he does with Noob Saibot, which we've probably seen in the trailer, and it's very satisfying, which is that like that split fatality. It's exciting to know that the fans have got them waiting for them this wonderful epic fight to play out, which is basically them saying, since Scorpion annihilated Sub-Zero in the first film, the fight between Scorpion and now Noob Saibot is going to be pretty intense because he's, Bihan wants to get his revenge. So I guess that's fine. Then Todd Garner cautioned that Scorpion is in the movie as much as Sanada's busy schedule allowed. So that's a key factor. We would love to have him in every way more than we had him in the sequel, but he has a huge career. He's a legend. And so we understand the importance of his character and wanted to give him his due, but also understand that this is, for the most part in the movie, Johnny Cage's journey. So therefore, that's another indication. It looks like Sanada, who plays Scorpion, will probably not have as much screen time as he should have because of his high demands of being in the Shogun. And then, of course, now they're focusing heavily on Johnny Cage's career, which I mentioned is not necessarily a good thing, as at least a main subplot, because they should really focus on the other two characters, because Cole Young needs to have his redemption somehow. Well, he kind of did in the first movie, but he needs to shine, and then Liu Kang needs to have his origins or his dues to be paid. So that kind of sucks. Therefore, we had to use Scorpion in the smartest way possible we can possibly think of, and to have the most impact on the story, which hopefully have done, and give him his due in the fighting and actual turns of twist of the story, which only means, again, limited amount of time for Scorpion. Then it says, making movies involves physics, it involves real life, it involves actors, schedules, and it's not like we can pick and choose the schedules of people and get them as much as we would hope, says producer added. While Johnny Cage is the biggest of the game characters introduced in Mortal Kombat 2, he's not the only fan favorite making their debut, as in the rebooted movie franchise, Kitana played by Adeline Rudolph in the sequel. Tadia Gabriel plays her best friend and bodyguard Jade. Then it talks about Kitana for a little bit and how her story with Shao Kahn and how that's going to play out. So hopefully we get a little more screen time with that. Then it says, then we have Jade, McCoy continued, and they're just bringing a new feeling and new tonal ingredients to the story and to the atmosphere of what we're creating. And it just made me feel more exotic and beautiful and interesting and brutal. Not to say that our existing characters, I really wanted to respect them throughout it as well. So it's just about fitting in all and calibrating and balancing up their stories. So again, the problem with this is that adding way too many characters, we got to have the storyline with Liu Kang and Kung Lao. We got to have the storyline with Cole Young. We have to have the storyline of the tournament. We have to have the storyline of Shao Kahn, Kitana, and Sindel. We have to have the storyline of Jade and Kitana because we know they're going to feud. Then we need to have, of course, Johnny Cage's storyline, and then we have the storyline with Kano, Sonya Blade, and Jax, and then of course there's the Scorpion and Noob Saibot storyline. So holy shit, that's a lot to unpack in like 2 hours. Then it says, given that the first film teased Johnny Cage's character would be in the sequel, should fans expect a post-credit scene in Mortal Kombat 2 that could set up another iconic games character that could be in the third film? Which I'm assuming will probably be like Shinnok, as we hopefully get introduced like the amulet or something like that. So then it says, no, it's not that kind of a movie. There is a coda, but then again, we're very aware of this, and really comes down to the real theory of New Line, which is New Line Cinema, and how they're so great is that they don't expect to make a sequel. We have to earn the right, which means money, which means positive feedback and money, more money. So we don't assume that we're going to get another shot at this because who knows, right? So basically, again, saying if they don't do well with the sequel, we're never going to see Mortal Kombat 3. If we've done our jobs like we have hoped with physics and budgets and everything else, the audience tells us that they enjoyed it enough and support it enough and gives us the opportunity to make a third film, then we will. But we're not going to give you some post-sequence to be like, oh, this is going to happen in the sequel, which basically means WB could can this entire project if they don't make the budget back. Because, as he says, hopefully, look, I will say in the same way of the first movie, we got to go find Johnny Cage. There's an idea at the end of the movie. It's not like we're peeling off the characters and saying, okay, we're done. Obviously, we could do more, and obviously we have plans to do more, which, like I mentioned in the previous video, that they want to do a universe like how the MCU is with Mortal Kombat, so we'll see how far they go. If we're given the opportunity to do more, we will do it. But we don't want to assume that we can. So everything is really just up in the air right now. We don't know what can happen. But otherwise, it says the movie will open in theaters October 24th, 2025. So, with that being said, long-term short, they're basically saying that they put in their efforts into the second movie, and whatever happens will happen. If the movie does well, which I think it might do well in the sense of money, because people want to see and have been waiting for a Mortal Kombat film. I mean, at least since the first movie had so many mistakes that the second one will correct. But like I said, if this movie does not do well because they're focusing too much on Johnny Cage that people like me don't want to see, there's so much lore and deep and darkness and crypticness to Mortal Kombat that this should not be a thing. Oh, and I forgot Baraka's in the film. If it focuses too much on heavy comedic stuff and Johnny Cage being like the next Wolverine and Logan, not trying to join the X-Men, but soon later realizing his worth, I know I'm going to be rolling my eyes a lot, but all I'm going to say is I'll try to remain as optimistic as I can, but I can already tell you that this is very, very concerning for me as a Mortal Kombat fan, and I hope that this movie does well, but like they said, they themselves know that they have plans to do more movies, but they just know that it's probably going to be unlikely a third movie will happen if the money and positivity doesn't come in. Therefore, we know that Quan Chi is in this film, but the third film has to introduce Shinnok, the amulet, and hopefully head towards the Deadly Alliance, etc., but that's just wishful thinking. Otherwise, Karl Urban has a lot of I guess promise, but he has a lot of weight on his shoulders to carry this film, because again, when you're trying to be the main character of Mortal Kombat, sidelining all the other characters that need a storyline, especially even like Raiden, I mean, it's kind of like poor storytelling, but we'll see what happens. So with that said, thank you guys all for watching, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. I'll be sure to do more Mortal Kombat news videos in the future, so if you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button, leave a comment below what you think, and I will talk to you all next episode.